Welcome back to Flick Summary. Today we'll be diving into a film titled Into the Wild. Enjoy the recap. A young man abandons his middle-class lifestyle in search of relationship and obligation freedom. Christopher McCandless sets out on a journey across America after giving up his home, family, and everything else, besides the few items he could carry on his back. He also donates all of his savings to charity. His ultimate goal is to take a trip to Alaska and into the wild, where he can spend time with nature and experience a real life without the trappings of the modern world. In the 20 months leading up to his great Alaskan adventure, his travels take him on a path of self-discovery, allowing him to reflect on and heal from his troubled childhood and his parents' illicit and abusive relationship, as well as to examine and appreciate the world around him. Christopher McCandless sets up camp in an abandoned bus in a remote area of Alaska's Denali National Park and Preserve in April 1992. McCandless initially finds the solitude, natural beauty, and thrill of living off the land to be satisfying. As he gets ready for a new life in the wild, he uses a .22 caliber rifle to hunt wild animals while also reading books and keeping a journal. McCandless graduated from Emory University with high honors in May 1990. 2 years earlier. McCandless quickly renounces his traditional lifestyle by shredding all of his credit cards and identification paperwork. He gives almost all of his $24,000 in savings to Oxfam and embarks on a cross-country trip in his dependable yet well-used Datsun to experience life in the wilderness. McCandless's car is submerged in a flash flood at Lake Mead, causing him to give it up and start hitchhiking. He burns the last of his meager cash and changes his name to Alexander Supertramp. McCandless meets Jan Burrs and Rainey, a hippie couple in Northern California. McCandless would rekindle Rainey's failing relationship with Jan after he tells him about it to him. By September, McCandless stops in Carthage, South Dakota to work for Wayne Westerberg's contract harvesting business. However, after Westerberg is detained for satellite piracy, McCandless is forced to leave. Then McCandless goes to the Colorado River, where he is informed by park rangers that he is not permitted to kayak down it without a license. But he disregards their instructions and continues paddling until he eventually reaches Mexico. He returns to the United States on foot after his kayak is lost in a dust storm there. He begins his journey to Los Angeles on a freight train after failing to find a ride. However, not long after arriving, he decides to leave because he feels corrupted by modern society. After being assaulted by a railroad bull, McCandless is later forced to return to hitchhiking as his preferred mode of transportation. When McCandless gets to Slab City in California's Imperial Valley in December 1991, he runs into Jan and Rainey once more. There he meets McCandless's love interest Tracy Tatro, a teenager. To everyone's sadness, McCandless decides to keep moving toward Alaska after the holidays. When McCandless is camping close to Salton City, California, he meets Ron France, a retired man who shares the tale of how he lost his family in a car accident while he was in the army. He now spends his time working on leather projects in a workshop. McCandless learns the art of leatherworking from France, who also helps him create a belt that depicts his travels. France, who has grown quite attached to McCandless after spending months with him, is upset when McCandless decides to depart for Alaska. When they part ways, France offers to adopt McCandless as his grandchild and hands him his old camping and traveling gear. But McCandless simply says they should talk about it after he gets back from Alaska and then leaves. Life for McCandless at the abandoned bus gets harder, and he loses his sense of judgment months later. He becomes aware of how harsh and heartless nature is as his supplies start to run low. McCandless comes to the painful realization that happiness is only truly found when it is shared with others, and he sets out to return from the wild to his friends and family. The stream, which he had previously crossed during the winter, has now grown wide, deep, and turbulent as a result of the thaw, and he is unable to do so. He is now a prisoner with no control over his destiny, and can only hope for assistance from the outside, which makes him saddened as he makes his way back to the bus. McCandless is compelled to gather and eat plants and roots out of desperation, but he confuses some of the plants and gets sick as a result. As he slowly deteriorates, he records his self-realization and accepts his fate. While having one last thought of his loved ones, he says goodbye to the world in writing before slinking into his sleeping bag to pass away. Moose hunters discover his body 2 weeks later. Shortly after, Carrie flies her brother's ashes from Alaska to Virginia while carrying them in her backpack. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.